This is an incredibly fascinating topic. I actually hadn't even heard of intimacy directing or intimacy choreography before I met Nicole. It was when I first met Nicole at an event at the museum that I actually learned that this was a profession, an industry that exists. So I'm incredibly excited to have her with us today. Just a little bit about her. Nicole Perry is an intimacy director choreographer, as well as a director choreographer in South Florida. She's the resident intimacy choreographer at Measure for Measure Theater, and she's a certified movement analyst through Integrated Movement Studies. And she's a member of Stage Directors and Choreographers Society and has apprenticed through Intimacy Directors. So without further ado, please welcome Nicole Perry.
Thanks. I am so excited to be here. And if you are coming into Zoom from the South Florida area and you have not been to WEAM, you really should go. It is an incredible, incredible place that I didn't know was there until the Maven event, which is also an incredible organization. But WEAM has so many wonderful educational opportunities, plus the artwork that is there. Totally recommend as an experience. I'm gonna pop in a little slideshow. We'll be going back and forth here between the slides. Oops, it's not in present mode. So sorry. Present. There we go. And I found out this really cool thing this week, that there's a caption on Google Slides. So if you use Google Slides and you're concerned about accessibility, you can caption your Google Slides as you present them. And then it's like already incorporated. You don't have to tell people to do it for themselves or anything. So I thought that was neat. So I'm an intimacy director and a movement analyst. And everyone is like, what are those things? What are those things? So an intimacy director works in theater or dance or opera, or sometimes all of those things, live performance. And this is my definition. This is how I describe it to people. It refers to creating and setting moments of intimacy. And I define those as moments that require personal vulnerability between the characters that are on the stage, but it often involves physical contact between the actors or performers' bodies in performance. So I do sort of qualify with that personal vulnerability bit, because grief could be a very intimate moment in a performance, but is not what we sometimes immediately think of as intimacy. Intimacy tends to correlate with sex very often in our mind, and that's not necessarily so. And I want to offer some more definitions and clarifications. There's intimacy direction and there's intimacy coordination. And intimacy direction refers to how I defined it, like anything that happens in live performance, theater, dance, opera. Intimacy coordination refers to things that happen for film. So HBO actually now requires that their shows that have intimate scenes or nudity has an intimacy coordinator. HBO has really been pushing that and is doing some great work in terms of protecting their actors and advocating for their actors by having an intimacy coordinator. Hulu and Netflix also often work with intimacy coordinators. So that is like the film side. We all do the same sort of work, but we have different names and there are different techniques, which I'm not really going to go into. It's not a how-to, it's just a here's what it is talk. There are some different techniques, but we all do the same sort of work, which is creating movement. And that's a really big thing. Like, we are movement specialists, just like you have a fight director or a fight coordinator for theater or film, and they set the movement that happens in those fight scenes. You have an intimacy director or intimacy coordinator, and they set the movement that happens in those moments. And that's really important, one, for the actors or performers' just sense of knowledge of like, I do this thing, and then I know that I have done my job. Because no one wants to do a feel like they've done a crappy job and not know why. So if we know exactly what the movement is, then we know exactly what we need to do. And in theater, that means being able to do it the same time, the same way every time you do it. You know, theater performers might do 8 shows a week when we're able to be in space together. And so to be able to have that consistency and that muscle memory, to be able to deliver the same performance every time. But also in order to protect actors' agency and boundaries. And there are many horror stories that I'm sure you have heard either online through about like the Me Too movement and Harvey Weinstein, and that people in power can use that power to influence the people who don't have the power to do things that maybe they're not really interested in doing or feeling great about doing. And so having someone in this position gives the actors a little bit more agency, because it gives them someone to go to and someone who is there specifically for these moments to protect actor boundaries and work on consent. Like, the director would like this thing. What are your thoughts on that? And then they're able to say, yes, no, you know, I could do this, but not that. And in film, that's really important too for having like nudity writers. You know, oh, the director just told her to take her top off, but she has no nudity writer in her contract, so no. So we put these people in these positions for some